Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Good morning, everyone. On this nice, semi-gloomy day. It's still a nice day regardless. I'm waiting for people to come inside, so I don't have to repeat myself. Please have a seat. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. All right, everyone. Well, welcome to our first of last three classes of the year before we head to our meditation retreats on December 11. So we had just finished the discussion on the 5 hindrances the past couple months, which hopefully will give you a good foundation to prep you for the retreat, since the retreat is going to be meditation heavy, obviously. But the 5 hindrances are going to be very important information to know for the retreat if you plan to attend, because our whole retreat will revolve around building concentration through mindfulness. And we're going to use the 5 hindrances as the base of that retreat, right? So other than the 5 hindrances, so for today's class and the next 2 classes, we're going to go over 3 different meditation objects or techniques that I believe are some of the more helpful ones out there, because there are literally hundreds of different techniques we can use to meditate on, right? But we will focus on 3 specific ones for the next couple of classes. That way, that's just a quick refresh of them, because we've already discussed them before in prior classes. But I just wanted to give a quick refresh to, again, prep for the retreat coming up. So everything I've been doing this year is to prep for this one retreat. Since we haven't had one all last year, and we haven't had one all this year, so this will be our first one in quite some time. So, and it'll be the first one in this new shrine, so it'll be a little bit more formal than it typically is, which is a good thing. But I think it'll be a really great experience if you do plan to attend. It is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., which kind of scares a little some people. But it's not that bad, I promise you. You can ask Leon or anybody else who's been to our retreats before. It goes by pretty quick. And when you're with a group of like-minded people who are here to practice and develop themselves, it's so much more easier to be able to sit for long periods and to truly develop that concentration, that spiritual development that we're seeking to have, right? Okay, anyway, so that retreat is December 11. Again, that's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You do have to register on our website to attend if you plan to attend. Other than that, we do have our last day of mindfulness, day of mindful working coming up, November 20. That's a Saturday. It'll be at 9 a.m. till whenever. Usually lasts about 3 o'clock or so, but our last day of mindful work, we started on our meditation path outside, our walking meditation path. So in between that time and the next day, I've been slowly doing a few things to prep us again for that next volunteer day, because our next volunteer day would be us completing everything. So installing all our statues, installing the benches and all the decoration and stuff like that, so that way it'll be ready by the end of the year. So you don't have to register for that or anything, just show up, bring friends, bring family, bring whoever. The more the merrier, usually, right? What else is coming up? Oh, and then December 5th, That's a Sunday. For our Sunday service, we will actually be celebrating our Venerable Abbot's 84th continuation day, his birthday. So that's usually a pretty special day for the Sangha and the members. So that is a unique experience, unique ceremony that we obviously only have once a year. So if you're able to attend to that, I think it's a beautiful service, but it won't be our general regular service for that Sunday. So it'll be a little bit longer, but it'll be nice to see how a semi-formal service ceremony is. Because there'll be some formalities to it as far as playing the larger instruments and doing different chanting, so it's a whole experience. So, okay, what time is it? So today, class number 1 of 3 of meditation techniques. So today we're going to cover meditation on the breath. We're going to cover 3 specific methods of meditating on the breath. And meditating on the breath is our most traditional form of meditation in Buddhist practice, in Buddhist meditation. It's the most traditional, normal form, right? There are many different methods of meditation on the breath. Traditionally, according to the Buddha, we are just being mindful of our breathing as we breathe, right? So the beginning of our series this year for the meditation class, we covered some of the 16 exercises in the Anapanasati Sutra. So we covered the first 4, I think, which is pretty much the foundation of all the remaining exercises. But the first 4 is being mindful of your breathing and your in and out breathing, right? So as you breathe in, you're mindful of your breathing in. As you breathe out, you're mindful of your breathing out. I breathe in heavy, I'm mindful of breathing in heavy. I breathe out heavy, I'm mindful of breathing out heavy, etc., right? So there are 16 exercises in that sutra. But the first 4 are the most fundamental. The first 4 are the basic meditation on the breath exercises. So we use those to meditate for those classes, right? And then we move down to the 5 hindrances, and now we're moving on to the next 3 most helpful techniques. So for meditating on the breath, we're going to cover 3 methods. The first one is going to be counting, which if you have studied any form of meditation or read anything on meditation, counting is probably something we see in every meditation book or resource, right? So as we're breathing and we're meditating, as we're breathing in and breathe out, you count 1, right? So in, out 1, in, out 2, in, out 3, in, out 4, right, etc. All the way up till 10. And then from there, you can either repeat yourself and go back to 1, but what I'd like to do, just to add an extra challenge in there, is to reverse your counting from 10 to 1, right? That way it'll give you a little bit more extra to do, because otherwise counting, as effective as it is, after a while it becomes very boring. It becomes very routine. It becomes automatic, right? You're not even paying attention. You're counting, but you're not paying attention, right? You're counting and your mind's out there. Your mind's not here, right? So when we try to add a little bit more extra steps to it, right? When we cover walking meditation next class, the most fundamental walking is lifting, moving, stepping, right? 3 steps to 3 points to the step. But we can add up to 16 steps. Just by moving your foot off the ground and moving and placing it, we can add 16 different levels to that movement, right? So you're like, how on earth do you add 16 movements? Well, we'll find out. But the point is, as we add more, which isn't always a good thing, but when we add something that makes the practice a little bit more challenging, it's easier to maintain our concentration on that item. So as we're breathing and we're counting, again, you can count 1 to 10 and reverse backward, or just repeat back to 1, right? Probably start out just by repeating yourself, repeating 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 10, and then after a while, add the reverse order to it, right? Just to see, so you can see the difference, right? I can't tell you that's a good way. Only you can tell yourself if it's a good way, right? So if you are able to see the difference, see the challenge, see what it's adding, see the value that you're adding to the different methods, then you know it's a good practice and you can stick with it, right? I can't tell you it's a good one. I can tell you it's a good one because it works for me, but it may not work for you, right? So that's part of the reason why for many classes we've gone over different methods. I think not last year or the year before, we went over a dozen different methods of meditation. Not to say that those methods are the best or they're the most correct or the most traditional. They are just options for you to see which method, which technique works for you better, right? Because out of the hundreds of techniques out there, maybe only one actually works. But you have to play the experimentation game and figure out what method works for you, right? So when it comes to the counting, as you count, like any other practice or any other sit that we do, if you ever get distracted, or you lose count, or just something happened where you're like, what was I doing? That's your cue to start over, right? Because counting can become automatic and routine, it's very easy to still be able to count, but also be distracted and play with your thoughts, right? But that's where the power of mindfulness comes in. So as long as you're counting and you're being mindful of the count, right? What I used to do when I used to count is visualize the numbers as I'm counting. So as you're counting 1, 2, visualize the numbers, right? Again, that's an extra level of challenge to it. Because what happens if your mind is blank, or if you close your eyes completely, which if you're new, you probably shouldn't do, right? Keep your eyes semi-open. But if you are one that does close your eyes completely, then it's so much easier to get distracted with random thoughts. It's easy to have a thought arise, and then you start entertaining the thought, right? So that's why we try to, as we sit, we keep our eyes semi-open. Or semi-closed, however you want to say it, right? That way, you're not completely dark in the dark and anything could come up, but you're also not completely wide where you're getting distracted by your environment, right? So you have just enough light to hold your concentration, to give you something to look at, right, through your eyelids. But if you do tend to close your eyes completely, then it's easier to visualize the numbers as you count. And that way you have something solid, sort of, to look at, to focus on, right? The second method of breathing is my favorite, and something that I think I invented, I don't know. There's a mathematical term to it, but I have not been able to find it. I haven't really done too much research on it, but it is either using a sound of the clock or even a metronome if you have it, right? Or even in this case, since we don't have either, you can just use your breath. But the practice is also counting, but you're counting in a overlapping ascending order. For example, if you're using your breath, for instance, as you breathe in, you count 1. You breathe out, count 1. Breathe in, 1, 2. As you breathe or hear the sound of the clock or the metronome, you're just adding numbers to each tick or to each breath, right? So it's 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., up till 10. And again, like with regular counting, you can either start over again at 1, or go back down from 10 to 1, 10, 9, 8, etc., etc. 9, 8, 7, 6, etc., etc., etc. 8, 7, 6, 5. You know what I mean? So that, to me, over all my years of meditation, that has been the most effective technique of meditation, hands down. Because it's so... it forces you to maintain on counting, because it's very easy to lose count. It's very easy to lose your place in the counting, right? Because you're adding or you're taking away, right? It's not just one, right? Regular counting, it's not It's not regular counting, so it's not as easy to just fall away and restart. So, never mind. But if you do that method, I think that's really most effective. And when people have done it, they said that's also very effective. Because again, it forces your focus to be super concentrated on keeping focus, on keeping count of where you are, right? So I wish we had a loud enough clock in here to use the clock, but we don't. I can probably use a metronome. There's an app for that, I'm sure. Or in this case, just use your breath, right? So pretend your breathing is a metronome or a clock ticking. So as you're breathing, just count 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc. So try that out. Depending on how long I talk and how much time I give us for meditation, try to use all three methods that we're about to cover. So that was the second method, but as we meditate, never mind, I'm going to keep that to the end. Third method is also very effective, and it uses a little bit of a mixture of different methods as well, but now we are not focused on counting or keeping count, but we're focusing on how the breath and the air feels as we breathe, right? So there's going to be different points in the body where we want to pay attention and focus on as we breathe. So the first, it's going to be obvious where the air enters our body, which is typically through our nose, right? So as you breathe in, you breathe out, you're going to pay attention to the tip of your nose, which is probably difficult with masks on, but you can probably still feel air going in and out, right? And in this case, with the masks, it's going to be warm. But point is, as you breathe in and breathe out, you're going to be paying attention to how the air feels, right? So are you breathing heavy? Are you breathing light? Is it warm air? Is it cold air? Is it cool air, right? Is it coarse? Is it smooth, right? You're just paying attention to the sensation of the air as it enters your nostrils, essentially, right? And so you want to do that, and you breathe in for 3 to 5 times. And then you move on to the back of your throat, right? Feel the air as it enters, and as you inhale and exhale, right? Just feel the air move through the back of your neck, back of your throat. And then you move down to your neck, right? Pay attention to how the air feels. As you breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And then move on to your lungs, right? Feel your lungs expand and contract, right? Feel the air movement as you're breathing in and breathing out. And then lastly, feel the air just fill your whole body, right? And then again, do that for 3 to 5 times, and then reverse order. Whole body, lungs, neck, throat, nose, right? So you're literally just going up and down, feeling the sensations as you breathe up and down. And that's also effective because now you not only are you paying attention to your breath, but you're paying attention to the areas of where you're focusing on, right? So you have an extra layer of focus there. And the point of that meditation is to find where in any of those points do you feel the most focus? Where do you feel the air or you're breathing most, right? So as you're breathing, right, if you're breathing through obviously you're breathing through your nose, but if you're breathing and you pay attention to the sensation of the tip of your nose as you're breathing, is that the strongest area of where you're able to focus, right? Or is the lungs a stronger area that you're able to focus? Or is it through your whole body that you're able to pay attention and focus most, right? So you're going up and down, you're going through all these different sets to find where in the body you feel you're able to feel the most concentration, feel the most focus. And then that area of the body becomes your object of meditation for that session, right? So with any method and technique that we go through and cycle through either classes or through your own practice, right? It's good to experiment with different methods and techniques, But you also have to stick to them for quite some time to figure out truly if they're effective or not effective, right? And so now we have a short period of meditation, but I want you to cycle through all the 3 different methods. Through the counting, the regular counting, through the challenge counting, and through the body focusing, right? And cycle through all those to see which method right now works for you the best. Which one gave you the most focus? Which one distracted you less? Which one caused you to have super concentration and you had little to no distraction, right? And like with any session that we have with meditation, you are still keeping mindfulness of what you're doing, right? So these techniques become your object of meditation, right? But like with everything else that we do, if for any reason you got distracted, you lost count, or you just found yourself daydreaming, right? Like I always tell you, make sure that to be mindful of these distractions and label them, right? Labeling is still going to be very important, especially now, because even though you have specific things to pay attention to and to focus on during your meditation, you're still going to probably get distracted. Hopefully not too much, but if you do, we want to do what we always do, is to label those distractions, right? So the door opens. Don't daydream about who it is, what they're doing here, why are they late, who they are. Just label the door, label the noise, right? Label for what it is, not for what you're telling it to be, right? Same thing with the distraction. It's almost lunchtime, so if you're hungry, don't daydream about where you're going to go after lunch, for lunch, or if you're going to cook, or you have to pick up something, or you want to deliver something. Just say food or hunger, whatever it may be, right? You're labeling the root of the distraction, not the story you give it. Because if you label a story, then you tend to start entertaining that story, right? You start making a grocery list. You start making your ingredient list. You start figuring out if you want to go out or eat in, cook, pick up, blah, 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 right? So as we practice meditation more often, more diligently, and become super aware of our practice and our mindfulness, that labeling eventually will start to settle down, right? Part of the point of labeling is to create a trend chart, a mental trend chart, right? What comes up most often, right? Sometimes it's have to do with things at work. Maybe sometimes it's a certain person. Maybe it's a place, right? So if a certain person, for instance, arises continuously and causes you stress or anger, then you have this pie chart of this one label, right? And then you see this label always comes up during every meditation practice, right? So now that you know it's coming up very often or coming up during every single session, now you have something to kind of do in normal life, right? So now you have something concrete that you know is causing you distress, or it's causing you to be distracted, causing you to not have full focus and concentration. And now you can utilize that label and do something about it in your regular life, right? So if it's a person, for instance, right? Maybe it's not a very good person. Maybe it's an acquaintance or friend or family member, right? Depending on what sort of emotion or mentality arises during that labeling process, it may be someone that you have to unfriend or distance yourself from or whatever, right? But now you know it's that person that's causing the distress. Only you know why, for what reason. And so it may not always be something so negative as having to let them go or distance yourself from them, but at least now you have a point of contact, right? Or the root cause of what's causing whatever emotion arises. So now you have something to work with, right? You may have to do a little bit more digging to figure out why they're causing you such emotion or distress or whatever it is. But at least now you have something to work with, right? And then if it's not a person, maybe it's a place, maybe it's a thing, maybe it's your job, maybe it's where you live, right? Whatever it is. The point of labeling is to see how your mind works, right? That's the whole point of meditation, is to learn how our mind works so that we're able to fix it and develop concentration needed to then move on to more advanced methods of meditation to, eventually attain enlightenment. But concentration, developing that concentration is the very first step to advance in a spiritual path, on your spiritual path, or just advance in bettering yourself as a person, right? Whether you're here for spiritual reasons or personal reasons, you can't move forward if you don't have correct concentration or if you don't practice enough, right? I always tell you that it's the quality over quantity when it comes to meditation, right? If you're sitting for 1 hour but you're constantly distracted and you're constantly not actually focusing or doing what you're supposed to be doing, then you've wasted an hour of meditation. Versus if you at least meditate for 5 minutes with good quality concentration, then that's far more superior than sitting for an hour doing nothing, right? And even though sometimes we have the motivation, even though we have the desire to meditate and to better ourselves, it's one thing just to say, yeah, I want to better myself. It's another thing to actually do something about it, right? Because Buddhism is a mind-centered religion, right? It's not about faith, it's not about praying or worshiping or chanting or whatever it is, right? We have statues everywhere, but it means nothing. They're plastic, they're carbon fiber, they're whatever it is, right? And so when we come to Sunday service and we're chanting, we're not praying to the Buddha, necessarily. We're not bowing to him, we're not worshiping him. The statues are just here as focal points. They too are objects of meditation, right? They too are things that we can use in meditative practices. When we practice visualization meditation, for instance, commonly we're using the image of the Buddha. Why? Because what does the Buddha represent? The Buddha represents as an enlightened person, a compassionate person, a person who sacrificed his princely life, his wife, his child, to become a wandering monk, to find the way out of suffering, right? So we are concentrating, developing within ourselves the qualities of the Buddha, right? Same thing with any of the saints, the bodhisattvas. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. What does he, she represent? He, she represents compassion and loving kindness. And so when we pray to the bodhisattvas or meditate on them, we're praying to develop the qualities, the characteristics that they have within themselves, within the character, right? So compassion, loving kindness, generosity. We're trying to develop those characteristics within ourselves. We're not praying and worshiping them for money or health or wealth. You're like, I don't care about that. I'm not here to give you health and wealth. If you want health, go to a doctor. If you want wealth, go to your job. They're not going to give it to you, right? So they're not here as idols to be worshipped, right? We don't have idolism here. They are just here to help you, to give you a focus point to meditate on. If we removed all the statues in here, this would still be a Buddhist temple. You don't have to have statues for this to be a Buddhist temple. If you go to a church, you can remove all the statues of the saints and Jesus and the crosses, and it would still be a church, right? The items inside the holy place does not make it a holy place, right? So, some people are like, oh, my house is not an ideal place to meditate. It is, right? Maybe sometimes it's not, depending on where you live, right? If you have a house full of children or you live next to the airport or something, you always have constant distractions. But those distractions can be a good thing, right? Those distractions are also teachers, because if you're trying to meditate and you're constantly hearing noises or sounds or things arise during meditation, then those become objects for you to be aware of, to label, right? So now they're just labels for you to add to your practice. So they're not necessarily bad things, but you do, of course, want to have somewhere that's semi-quiet. That's usually helpful. But if not, then utilize what you do have and master it. Master your environment. Master your mind. That's what we're trying to do here. Sorry, I'm blind this morning, apparently. Okay. I think I've covered basically what I need to do. Any questions, concerns, emotional outbursts about any of the three methods? Yes, sir.
I want to say on the health side, there's a lot of research has shown that meditation does improve some health, especially cancer patients and all those serious, if they meditate, their health, breathing, concentration does improve.
Yes, there's been a lot of studies. Right. Yeah, there's been a lot of studies on meditation and how meditation can affect our immune system, help our immune system, help our body heal faster and quicker, at a quicker rate. But those are byproducts of meditation, right? Those are just side effects, good side effects of meditation. But there are quite a few studies about the actual health benefits of meditation. And even now in schools and even in prisons, they use a lot of mindfulness practices, especially therapists. They've started using a lot of mindfulness practices because they see the benefits of it, right? There are studies of the benefits of being mindful, of having a dedicated mindfulness practice, or just somehow including it in your everyday life, right? I've always emphasized that when you leave or come to the temple, be mindful of your walk up to the temple. Be mindful of your walk back to your car, right? Be mindful of how you're stepping, where you're stepping. Be mindful of the feeling of stepping, right? Be mindful of your environment, what's around you. Be mindful of the air, the sun, right? Just be mindful. That way you're able to enjoy the walk. Otherwise, if you're just automatically walking back and forth, then you got to your car and you're like, how did I even get to my car? Right? I've always said that anything you do in life can be a practice, can be a meditation practice, can be a mindfulness practice. The most mundane things, brushing your teeth, showering, cooking, cleaning, anything, any of that can be a mindfulness practice, can be meditation. How? By just being mindful of what you're doing. Right? We think that, just brushing your teeth or washing your hands or doing laundry or cleaning, they're just secular, mundane things. But they're things that you can actually enjoy if you put in the effort to enjoy them, right? For monastics, we have 52 gathas, small mantras that we recite for everything that we do. When we wake up, we have a gatha, we have a mantra. When we put our robes on, we have a mantra. When we brush our teeth, when we shower, when we clean, when we eat, when we sit, when we walk, everything has a mantra. Why? Because they remind us to be mindful of what we're doing, to be mindful and enjoy the activities, the actions that we're doing, right? Otherwise, you're just walking through life waiting for something to happen. Why wait, right? Okay. I just wanted to keep that short and sweet because it's a short and sweet topic. But as we sit, and we actually have some time this time. So as we sit, cycle through those three methods and at least give yourself, we'll sit for about 20 minutes. So at least give yourself 5 minutes for each method. And then the last 5 minutes to go back to which one worked for you best. And then after that, we can discuss if we must. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so go ahead and adjust yourselves, stretch out if you need to. I'm going to go to my cushion. We will sit for 20 minutes. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that was a fruitful sit for you. Okay, any aftermath questions, concerns, emotional outbursts? Yeah. That's true. Well, just think of the mask as a obstacle you need to overcome during your meditation. There you go, object of meditation. Any experiences anybody want to share? Which one worked for you? Which one did not work for you? And one worked better, more than the other? Or none at all? That could be a thing too. So method 1 and method 3.
And sometimes I have to go back to the basic, like breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out.
Yeah. You don't have to count. Yeah, you don't have to. When you're meditating and if you're doing the counting method, you don't even have to count. You can also just say in, out, because I do that sometimes too. Because counting gets boring. So I will say in and out, especially in the morning, because we meditate 90 minutes in the morning. So to get through that, I have to use my method number 2, because it's long, and it's super focused, and it works the best for me for such a long session. But for smaller sits, I usually count or just observe my body as I breathe, because that's also helpful. Cool. Anything else? Okay. Wow. Nobody wants to share. Just kidding. So our next class will be in walking meditation, which is everyone's favorite, apparently. So we'll cover that for our second class. And our third class will be chanting or mantra meditation, which is a combination of walking and sitting, but we'll be chanting. And that's a very good one too, because we chant slowly as we walk, but then as we sit, we increase the speed of our chanting. And so towards the end of it, when we stop and we sit for about 5 minutes, everyone has this nice vibration, calming vibration in their body, which is very soothing. So that's also a good one. Otherwise, if you're able to join us on our Sunday services every Sunday, 12:30 p.m. And then I've opened up our evening chanting as well, or my evening chanting at least, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. Where we have a formal monastic meditation, chanting service. So it's also the chanting plus sitting. We sit about 20 minutes and do walking meditation as well. And that's it. Sunday service, next class, 2 more classes before our retreat. I'm excited for. That's been my distraction lately for when I meditate, is trying to make sure everything's covered for the retreat. That's like my main distraction. But it's a good one, right? It's a temple distraction, so it's not really a distraction. Okay. All right, well, I will see everyone hopefully either tomorrow or next meditation class. Thank you. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.